my spooky friends, and welcome to Dairyland Frights. I'm John, your host of the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. And today, I am so excited every time I get my brother from another mother, Tommy from Let's Get Freaky podcast. Welcome, Tommy.
Hello, my brother. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get freaky with you tonight, brother.
Yes, we're going to get freaky with Dairyland Frights and have a blast. Because I love Tommy. He has great content. Please check him out. Go do everything you can. Give him some love. He's had some great guests on recently that I absolutely love, that I listen to. And every time I have him on, I am so blessed and have so much fun. And we talk about so much wide-ranging topics. One of these days, I got to come over and visit you. I got to figure out a way to get across the pond. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'll figure it out.
All you need is a boat and be a good swimmer. And you can make it, man. You can make it. Yeah, you can get over. And you've got somewhere to stay. You've got somewhere to stay as well. You can stay here, I'll take you to the local haunted pubs and to the castles, and we'll hopefully have some paranormal experiences. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, we will rip it up. I just get
Absolutely.
my canoe.
I want to get over to you though, man. I want to get over to the US. I think that is. Well, maybe we can do a switch every now and again.
Yeah. That would be awesome, because there's so much cool stuff that's in the US and that's in the UK. My buddy, he just went to Scotland, actually. I know it's not the UK, but he just went to Scotland and had a blast there. And unfortunately, he had a couple things set up to visit some paranormal places.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, due to weather and other things going on in Scotland, I guess, he was not able to see that. But he said, we'll figure it out another time. So
Scotland is
another place.
Beautiful place.
Beautiful. Have you been there or just?
I have. And Scotland is in the UK. It is a part of Britain, Scotland. I know there's sometimes they don't want to be a part of Britain. Some people in Scotland don't want to be it's one of them. But Scotland is it's a beautiful place. I went a couple of years ago to Edinburgh. What a place, man. It's like walking into Harry Potter land. Obviously that's where Harry Potter was born, and you can see that's where it was made. It was just like being in the real life Harry Potter. So many legends, so many laws. You've got Edinburgh Castle, which is just beautiful. I didn't get a chance to go inside, but to see it outside in the middle of the town, it's like, wow, man. Yeah, that's a very cool place. I highly recommend. Scotland, everywhere in Scotland's pretty beautiful though. Lovely place, man.
Yeah, that's something I definitely want to do. Get over to Europe and see some of your beautiful sights, beautiful people, especially like Tommy. Check out some of the spookiness and everything like that. So
absolutely,
we have what we're going to do. We're going to get right into our topic, Tommy, because we have a really meaty, spooky topic that you probably heard of. If you haven't heard of it, where have you been, I guess?
I hope I've heard of this, man. I'm worried now.
Yeah, and if you haven't, you will be educated and you'll be like, wait a minute, I think I did hear this. So anyway, so today we're going to get into one of the most famous incidents in the UK or Britain or whatever you guys want to call it, and that is the Rendlesham Forest Incident, okay, which is known as, well, they say Britain's Roswell from my research, the UK, whatever you want to say. And if you guys don't know what this is one of the few UFO, sites and places and a number of interviews and experiences that a lot of people really man, did this really happen? But we'll get into it. So let's get
I've heard of this one. I've definitely heard of this one.
Okay, great. Yes, I figure if you're into spookiness, you're in whatever, you definitely have heard of this because it's very, very famous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so what was it? So this was a series of reported sightings of unexplained lights near Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England, in December of 1980, which became linked with alleged UFO landings. So these events, and this is where I think it's really cool. And the reason they call it the Roswell, let me back up. So everyone knows Roswell, but let's say you don't. Let's say you're not really into UFOs, you're more into ghosts and stuff so Roswell, what happened back in the 50s, back out in Nevada, in the States here, supposedly a UFO crash. A bunch of military people supposedly grabbed the UFO, and the alien survivors or extraterrestrial survivors, whatever you want to call them, and it's been kept under wraps forever. But with that one, Roswell, and this one, Rendlesham, is all the witnesses, the evidence, there's pictures, there's letters, there's documents. It isn't just me and Tommy looking out in our sky and being like, hey, what's going on with that, right? And then maybe taking a picture. No, this is different. This was unbelievable as far as evidence, right? And before we get going, Tommy, did you want to add anything before we get going into here, like about it, like how you heard of it? Did you read about it, or just somebody mentioned it to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those stories that you can't miss, you know, especially when you look into this stuff that we look into. It's one of the most famous UFO stories, I think, in the UK. It's, you know, in the world, to be honest. It was at the American military base, right? That's where it took place, which is interesting in itself. You know, this happened to military men as well. And it's one of the most famous stories that you can't hide from this one. It's out there, and it's a very interesting one.
Yeah. So the events occurred, like Tommy said, just outside the Royal Air Force Woodbridge, which was just at the time by the United States Air Force Base, basically. And what it included was the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles First Halt, or I Halt, claimed to have seen things he described as a UFO. The occurrence is the most famous alleged UFO events, like we just talked about, have happened in the United Kingdom, and is among the best known reported UFO events worldwide. So like just what we just said. It has been compared to Roswell UFO incident in the United States, and is something called, like I said, Britain's Roswell. So the UK Ministry of Defense has stated that the event posed no threat to national security and was therefore never investigated as a security matter, which is interesting. Skeptics have explained the sightings as a misinterpretation of a series of nocturnal lights, a fireball, or the Dennis lighthouse, and bright stars. Now that makes me laugh. So it was a lighthouse, a bunch of flares going off, fireball. What is going on? And bright stars. So don't you love those, Tommy, where people just like that's ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
How is that?
I mean, the lighthouse one always gets me. So I'm like, surely, you know, these guys are military men, smart men, you know, they know when they're seeing a light that's possibly, you know, a lighthouse, you'd be able to tell. They would work out exactly what that was very quickly. You know, that was clearly just, you know, one of these statements that they kind of throw out, which I think the general public just accept. You know, everyone's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it was a lighthouse. You know, people move on. But then there's guys like us that are like, come on, man. How can that be a light? Right. How can this whole story have escalated from a lighthouse light, which would have been there all the time? Every night that would have been there, that light. You know, so that the lighthouse one always, I was like, no. I remember, because there's always been a lot of reenactments of this story on different shows. Right. And the lighthouse is one of the ways they kind of sometimes end it. It was all a lighthouse. I mean, that's more ridiculous. No, it's more ridiculous than a UFO, right? That these guys would think it was a lighthouse. So yeah,
absolutely. So around 3 a.m. on December 26, 1980, reported as December 27th by Halt in the memo to UK Ministry of Defense, a security patrol near the east gate of the RAF Woodbridge saw lights apparently descending into nearby Rendlesham Forest. These lights have been attributed by astronomers to be a piece of natural debris seen burning up as a fireball or meteor over southern England around that time. Servicemen initially thought it was a downed aircraft. According to Halt's memo, and you can read these memos, by the way, they are online. It's very, very interesting. Upon entering the forest to investigate, they witnessed a glowing object that was metallic in appearance with colored lights. As they attempted to approach the object, it appeared to move through the trees, and the animals on the nearby farm went into a frenzy. So, okay, you know, this is really interesting, and it's in this memo, you know, I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. One of the servicemen, Sergeant Jim Pennison, later claimed to have encountered a craft of unknown origin while in the forest, although there was no published mention of this at this time. And there is no corroboration of witnesses. Pennison also described touching the encountered craft and finding it to be very warm to the touch, which I thought was really interesting. That's pretty damn brave to come up there and want to touch that thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So
radiation and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Shortly after 4 a.m., local police were called to the scene, but reported that the only lights they could see were those from the Orford Nest Lighthouse, some miles away on the coast. Okay. After daybreak on the morning of the 26th of December, servicemen returned to the small clearing near the eastern edge of the forest and found 3 small impressions on the ground, as well as burn marks and broken branches on nearby trees. At 10:30, the local police were called out again, this time to see the impressions, which they thought could have been made by an animal. Georgina Bruni, in her book, You Can't Tell the People, published a photograph of the supposed landing site taken on the morning of the first sighting, December 28th. So Halt has visited the site with several servicemen in the nearby early hours of the 28th December 1980, reported as the 29th by Halt, again in his documents. They took radiation readings in the triangle of the depression and in the surrounding area using an ANPDR-27 standard U.S. military radiation survey meter. So there you go. If you want to know exactly what it was, that's what it is. Although they recorded 0.07 milliretrograms per hour. In other regions, they detected 0.03 to 0.04 milliretrograms per hour around the background level. Furthermore, they detected a similar small burst over half a mile away from the presumed landing site. Halt recorded these events in a micro cassette recorder. So that's interesting. Let's just stop there. So the police come in and they go, oh, it's an animal. The other side just go, oh, it's just a bunch of meteors and stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, why are these people even saying that when they're not even, get witness statements, right? I talk to people, make some photographs, you're talking about U.S. servicemen. Why are they making this up? Just for fun?
Yeah.
If you make something up for fun, wouldn't they be like, and Tommy, I want you to comment, wouldn't you be like, oh, then I saw these aliens come out and then this happened and then that happened. You know what I mean? You would, if you're making it up, you're going to be making up like really outlandish story, right? You're not going to be saying, well, I came up to it and I touched it. It was warm. I saw this hover among the trees. I did a recording of it. We took readings of it. So on and so forth. I mean, why would you do that if you're making this all up, right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, for sure. And then there's always more credence when a serviceman. I don't know why, but when a serviceman or a police officer, military, when they share these experiences, there's always more. There's even more of that reason of why would they lie about that? There's no reason for them to do that. It's not in anyone's interest for them to come out with this story. So there's no reason to lie. And
exactly.
Going back to the animal, what animal would that be? What animal would be able to do that?
It's a 3-legged dog or something?
Yeah.
Or a 3-legged raccoon or deer?
Yeah, what would do that?
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
and you. And the story would be, probably escalated if it was a lie, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Abduction, they'd had something in like that, maybe, or,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I want to add here, just in the middle of this, is like, I've spoken to military personnel, and I know you have too, about UFO sightings and about other things in their line of work and what they've seen and have kind of brought up. Two stories I want to share here. One was there was this woman and she was in security patrol on this one base and she would see this object, right? And she didn't know what it was, but they have to call out, to their command whoever that is, say, hey, there's an object in our space. What do you want us to do? Because that's serious. If you're in military space, you're in big trouble. I mean, you're going to get into trouble very quickly. So, she went through the protocol, went up the ladder or whatever you want to do and need to do, excuse me. And they were told, don't say anything. Like, that's okay. We'll take care of it. And she told me, no, I saw this weird object. It kept flying around the base. It wasn't a drone. The way it made its moves and stuff, it was this weird blue color that it was almost translucent. And she's like, that's not a drone. That's not anything, like a weather balloon or whatever you want to say. But the weird thing was that they just told her, and people under her command just don't say anything. We'll take care of it. Like, and when she went in to talk to her commander the next day, she was like, hey, I can put in that report and, I need to put this in there because, we got to make sure that everyone knows what this was. So, when they're up in the towers that we're not having the same, maybe false identification. And again, the commander said, no, we handle it. Don't worry about it. Now, she never saw it again, but she was like, it was so weird that, they just kind of blew her off when she said, even if they see like a drone, like sometimes she said, some kids will think they're funny and they'll be having their little drones flying in the area. They report that immediately. And then they go to basically the local police or whoever and give a stern warning to whoever that was who had that drone to never do that again. And they have to make a report of it, even as silly as that is. Just a little kid with his little drone that got, off course, anything like that. They take it extremely seriously. So she thought that was really, really odd. The other story I have was there was this other gentleman. He was on an aircraft carrier. And then, he was security. And all of a sudden, he, again, saw this light in the distance. And he was like, oh, I don't know what that is. And it was kind of making some weird moves and stuff. He's like, oh, that's really interesting. And then all of a sudden, like the alarm goes off and all these like F-14s or F-16s or whatever just start vroom, 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 going off the deck. And he's like, okay. And then again, same thing. He went to his commander and said, hey, what's going on? I saw this light and stuff like that. Should I be secure with, blah, blah, blah. What do we need to do? What's the protocol? They're like, oh, don't worry about it. We're handling it. And it's okay. And he's like, again, if anything they see, they immediately have to go through a protocol of making sure everything's secure, making everybody has their orders, making, and there it's just same thing. So I don't know if you've spoken to anybody, Tommy, where maybe they've brought that up, where it was just
absolutely. Right? I've spoken to military personnel that have said exactly the same as you just there, that they've seen these weird lights, they reported it to their higher ups, and the higher ups are like, okay, let's stop talking about this. You don't need to go there. It's absolutely fine. It's above our pay grade, basically. That's obviously that's very strange because everything should be seen as a threat. If you don't know, if it's unidentified in the sky, that is a threat. So it implies that these military personnel know what someone in the military knows what these things are. Maybe, that maybe implies that. Because, it would be, as you say, a drone that a kid's flying over is taken seriously. So a light in the sky that is, they don't know what it is. That's got to be taken seriously. That could be a threat. That could be an enemy coming in to attack or whatever. The fact that they're saying, right, okay, you've seen this, fine, don't talk about it anymore, which we've heard so often. We've heard many people say that. Yeah. I've talked to people that have said that, and it's unbelievable, really, because you would think there'd be some sort of protocol for any event in the military. These are stop talking about it, basically, is very strange and implies that, someone higher than the person in charge knows what these things are.
Yeah, exactly.
Possibly.
Exactly. So getting back to the story, it was during the investigation that the flashing red light that was seen across the field to the east, almost in line with the farmhouse as the witnesses had seen on the first night, the Orford Ness Lighthouse is visible further to the east in the same line of sight. And I'm like, wait a minute. So hang on a second. When does lighthouses have red lights? I mean, I'm sure some do, but I don't think they do. I'm not a big lighthouse guy, but A red light? Why would you want to have a red light on a lighthouse? Don't you want a bright white or yellow light so the ship? If you see this bright red light coming towards you and you're captain of a ship, you might think, "Oh my God, is there another ship coming or something?" Or right? I mean, I don't. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I've always, whenever you think of lighthouses, you think of like the beam of light going into the ocean. Yeah, not a red light. I mean, maybe, but even if it's red or white, whatever the colour of the light is, surely they would see that all the time. You know, that lighthouse is there every day of the week doing its job.
Yeah,
it's a red light. Oh, it's the lighthouse. It's always there. You know, like surely that wouldn't even be that would be a very normal thing, I would have thought.
Yeah, exactly. So later, according to Halt's memo, 3 star-like lights were seen in the sky, 2 to the north and 1 to the south, about 10 degrees above the horizon. Halt said that the brightest of these hovered for 2 to 3 hours and seemed to beam down a stream of light from time to time. Astronomers have explained this as star-like lights as bright stars. Okay.
Oh.
So, yeah, okay, yeah. So one of the weird things too was that with this, when they started talking about this more and more, one of the biggest things was they both were at the time, the United States Air Force was under the command, like I said, of this one commander. His name was Colonel Gordon E. Williams. So Halt was a commander, this guy's, but the other base commander, because it's the, how do I say, it's the big hierarchy of military. So they got a commander and a commander. The base commander was Colonel Ted Conrad and Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt. So one of the things too is they have taken a photograph of the supposed landing site, like I said, and I believe you can see it. I have to double check, but I believe it is out there. And like I said, it's just strange, a very, very strange picture. And also, again, that everyone is denouncing this, and Halt put all these memos out, and this, I think too, you can hear some of the recordings of Halt talking about this. And again, it's very interesting because one of the other theories was that it was a hoax. So the BBC reported that a former U.S. Secretary policeman, Kevin Conde, claimed responsibility for creating strange lights in the forest by driving around in his police vehicle whose lights had been modified. However, there is no evidence this prank took place on the night in question. And by the way, this happened over several different nights, okay, around the holiday season. So when I was talking about the 26th, that first, it happened then, happened on the 28th, 29th, and they had a skeleton crew at this time. So you didn't have a lot of people involved in this, not because they didn't want to get involved, it was because basically there just wasn't a crew. Everybody was off celebrating Christmas and everything like that. So, again, what I love is all the different things where they say there's some guy driving around in his Jeep and he's just, again, okay, so then why make the photograph? Why, use that equipment to see the radiation levels and stuff like that? So, again, Tommy, explain to me how you could drive around in a truck and
in the forest.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And again, what would you be achieving from making this story up? That is what you got to kind of look at as well. Like what are you going to get from making this story up? These are military guys that are there. They're doing a very important job. They've got a good job. It's a good job what they're doing. Why would they want? What would be the reasoning for a smoke screen like this to make up? It doesn't make no sense. It's interesting that it happened over the Christmas period, I think, when a lot of the military wasn't there, when it maybe not have been as busy as normal. If, just for example, aliens, whatever you want to call them, did want to come to this military base for some reason and did want to test or see something, whatever their information, whatever they're trying to get, whatever reason why they're there, it would be a good time to go. Right, it would be a good time to go and check this base out when it is quiet, when it's the Christmas holidays, when a lot of people are not working, when the people that are working are probably a little bit shut off as well, So that's interesting, the timing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's interesting the number of excuses they've used, as well as this happened over different nights of seeing the different object, of different memos being put out there, And again, you would not be doing this if you're just, this is a pretty big con job for a bunch of military guys. So one of the other things, this has been reported many, many times. And one of the things is they've done, obviously, evaluated the memos from Hall and other audio recordings of his, as well as other witnesses and stuff like that. And so certain people, and one of them is a gentleman named Tom Dunning, and he has this Skeptic podcast. I don't know if he still does, but he actually talked to Colonel Holt, and he said his thoroughness was commendable. But even he can be mistaken. Without exception, everything he reported on his audio tape and in his written memo was perfectly rational and unremarkable explanation. All that remains is the tale that these men were debriefed and ordered not to mention, and warned, this is great, that bullets aren't cheap. Now, I don't know if that's kind of a real warning that really happened, or Colonel Holt making that up. And one of the things is, yes, these men were threatened. And really, I think that's really interesting. If it's fake, why do these men threaten then to talk about it? They're like, no one's going to believe you. Go ahead, say whatever you want, right? And again, this is the crazy thing. Colonel Holt says to this day, nobody in the military has ever debriefed him. So again, him talking about the different things and stuff, basically he was just warned, but nobody debriefed him. Like I talked before, where it's normally you sit down and you talk to your commanding officer. This is what happened. This is in the report, And again, none of this was like, the UFO landings weren't in the base. They were not being like provoking anything. They weren't being hostile. They weren't being anything. You know what I mean? They just landed in this forest, hovered over this forest. They saw beams of light coming down. They weren't sure what those were. Your guess is as good as mine. But all this was, again, seen by these, few men. And I just think, why threaten anybody and not debrief them if you guys are like, it's nothing, right, Tommy? I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like when stuff gets taken down offline, information gets removed. There's so much, obviously there's a lot of misinformation and stuff out there, but certain things sometimes get picked on, and you're like, why has that been taken down? Why has that been removed? And it makes you think, well, probably because there was some truth to that one, and they don't want that one out there, but they let all the other stuff slide. So it's kind of like that, I sort of think, it's, certain things are allowed to be said, but then you say something that's close to the mark, then it's removed, or someone's threatened. It seems unnecessary. Like, why would you need to do that?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the biggest things too is that these men, no one's put them under lie detectors. No one's, So again, if you want to do that, let's do that. Let's go through the whole thing to disprove them. And that's never happened either. It's just been kind of pushed away, and everyone's just kind of brought it up. These guys have been on TV. They've been done numerous stories and everything. So, again, that's just so fascinating to me that they would just kind of blow this out of proportion. If it wasn't real, they're blowing it out of proportion. If it was real, then just talk to them and say what you saw, and, maybe have some reporting, and then come out later, hey, it was real. And so on and so, like they are doing now, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
Absolutely.
Right. But now they're showing, right? Now they're showing all these pictures coming out and saying there's going to be big news. So why do you think that's changed? Like, why do you think now we're seeing military things and other things like that?
Yeah, it is interesting. It is very interesting why now. And there's so many different theories to why it is now. There's so much going on in the world that they kind of want you to stop and look at this for a second. It's like a smoke screen. There was a few big stories, shall we say, not too long ago that were quite controversial that you're not hearing about anymore as much since they started talking about this. So is that a way? It's like they use it as like a smoke screen? The thing is, so many people have seen these things in the sky, weird things in the sky that we can't explain, including myself, including family members that I've got. including people that, like, we all know some people that have had these experiences. It's very rare to meet people that haven't seen something in the sky that they can't explain. So many of us know that there is something out there. What it is, we don't know. There is more out there that's unknown. Obviously, the world is a lot more connected than it's ever been. You know, if our history is what they tell us it is, which it probably isn't, but if it is, we are more connected now than ever before. You know, the world, we know what's going on in every corner of the world. We can communicate with everyone in every corner of the world at any time, you know. So maybe it's like they haven't got a choice but to release this information out there now, because it's, you know, we've all got cell phones, we all talk. Everyone, you know, the UFO phenomena is there. It's real. We know it is. So they kind of haven't got a choice but to start letting us know as well.
Yeah, exactly. So in 2005, the Forestry Commission used the lottery proceeds to create a trail in Rendlesham Forest because of public interest and nicknamed it the UFO Trail. So there's a trail. Have you been to this? Or are you going to go to this sometime?
I'm going to go to it soon because I really want to go to it. I know a lot of people that have. And there is actually a big model of the craft. I don't know if you've seen the picture of what the craft looked like. It's only quite a small triangular craft with like a little bump in the middle. Have you seen it? Have you seen the picture of it?
Yeah, I've seen the picture,
Yeah, so that's there as well. So you can literally go over to it and get your picture done with it and stuff like that. And apparently that's what these guys saw. They also had, like, I don't know if you mentioned it, had like possible like Egyptian style numerals around the side of the craft. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting aspect to it as well. But yeah, I do need to go because where I live now, I'm a little bit further away from Rendlesham, but I'm still not too far away from it. I'm not sure how long. It's probably 3 or 4 hour drive for me right now. So I do want to go there, man. I feel like I need to go there.
Yeah, exactly. And then in 2014, the Forestry Service commissioned an artist to create a work which has been installed at the end of the trail, just like Tommy said. The artist states the piece is modeled on sketches that purportedly represent some versions of the UFO claimed to have been seen at Rendlesham. So that's just awesome. I just love that. This is great. And then in 2010, Jenny Randles, who first reported the case in the London Evening Standard in 1981 and co-authored with the local researchers who uncovered the events, the first book on the case in 1984, Sky Crash, A Cosmic Conspiracy, emphasized her previously expressed doubts that the incident was caused by extraterrestrial visitors, whilst suggesting that per UFO might have caused parts of the case. She noted, some puzzles remain. We can probably say that no unearthly craft were seen in Rendlesham Forest, but we can also argue with confidence that the main focus of the events was a series of misconceptions of everyday things encountered in less than everyday circumstances. So she's kind of like on the fence a little bit about what happened here. But all the authors who have done books have said, we really don't know what it was, but do we really know it was a UFO or was it something else, right? Now, one of the things that came out recently was that some people, besides, I don't know how to say this, some military hardware maybe got loose, basically. I guess that's the way to say it. And they were testing it and it was not working well. And the reason they were testing it is because, and I love this, because they didn't think anybody was around in the base. So they thought, let's take this thing up for a joyride and see what happens. Now, that has been a recent thing. It's on the internet. Whatever to believe that. But I think that's the best, right? I think it's the best one I heard, where it's just like some guys just were like, hey, man, but no one's really around. You want to take this up? Yeah, let's do that. Hey, do you know how to drive this thing? No. Whatever. No one's going to see us. So you love that one? That's my favorite. That's my favorite conspiracy one.
What's the worst that can happen, right?
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen? We're just in this thing. Hey, can you read hieroglyphs or something? No. Oh, well, straight forward. Here we go. Here we go. Shit, we're crashing. I love that. That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Now, it was Christmas time, so there might have been a few beverages being. I'm not saying that that's what it was, but maybe they were, having a good time. And
get in the vehicle. Take it up. Let's see what happens. They have reported that around Roswell too, not in the Roswell incident, but people have reported numerous times where they've seen objects around Area 51 that are not how would you say, a regular aircraft. In fact, our stealth wing, when we came out with the stealth wing fighter, a lot of people thought it was alien technology. Because if you didn't know what the stealth wing fighter is, folks, if you would see it and would not know what it was, I would think it's a UFO. Because it flies pretty silent. It's not as loud as like the big fighter jets where, they, believe it or not, they fly over where I work. And I can't hear myself speak. We can't figure that out for life. I mean, where I work, I'm not kidding you, Tommy. This is a totally weird tangent, but these like F-14s will fly over. There's an airport right near where I live, but they'll fly over our building. And I always laugh, and I'm like, why are these guys flying over my building? It's just an office building. Like, do we have aliens in the basement or something? It's like
they're watching you. They're watching you, man.
Like, hey,
they know the topics you're covering, and they're keeping an eye on you.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. Never thought about this way. But anyway, there's kind of a real, I wouldn't say battle going on, but it's a lot of people believe in this and believe what happened because it happened over many nights and it was done by servicemen. A lot of people don't believe it because they just think, these guys, hey, like Tommy said, maybe had a few pints and we're just seeing something. But again, maybe I'll do a more deeper dive in the future, but there's a whole mess of evidence out there. I mean, a ton of it from Hall with his journals, with the recordings, with the other evidence. And there's been books upon books and shows and you name it. You can go on this and go down a deep, deep rabbit hole with it. But like Roswell, again, no one's still come out, which is weird because this happened in the 80s. So it's been a while. And Roswell happened in the, 40s or 50s, depending on who you believe. That's been a while. Why aren't we coming out now and saying, yes, this happened, or no, it didn't, and this is what I want to show you guys? Because the cat's already out of the bag. I think if you interviewed most people off the street, most people would say, yeah, they believe in UFOs or something similar to that. And so it's not like it's a big deal. Not to say if a UFO landed in your front yard or UAP or whatever you want to call it, you wouldn't be a little scared, but, it wouldn't be surprising from the sole fact of, oh my God, they do exist. I mean, yeah, of course they exist. There's so much life out there and so many galaxies that even, the Hubble telescope and the other telescopes have seen. I mean, there's just not, we were taught, I think in school, like there's 8 planets or whatever it was. I have to remember. It's hard to remember. But, I've been to school a while. But you know what I mean? But no, there's thousands, millions, billions of galaxies. I mean, it's just not, it's crazy. There has to be life out there.
Yeah.
So,
and we still don't fully understand. We don't fully understand where we are. Yeah. We've got an idea. We're getting more of an idea, but there's still the jury's out for what is going on where we are. There's still so much possibility and we don't know. We haven't got the answers. We've got some answers and some good ideas, but we still don't really know where we are, to be honest, which is kind of wild when you think about it.
Yeah.
We are floating on a rock. We have no idea where we are.
Yeah, exactly. So do you want to add anything to this about the Rendlesham incident, Tommy? Is there anything maybe you heard or something that maybe you've reported on?
Well, I can tell my granddad, I don't know if I've told you this before, but my granddad had a sighting back in, I think it was the 80s or 90s, but it was a story that he told us for years, and I've heard this story many times from my granddad. And it was always fascinating, always very interesting. He saw a UFO, which kind of, when he describes it, it kind of reminds me of the Rendlesham UFO. And his experience, he was walking the dogs, and he was walking through on a golf course. He took the dogs on a golf course, and he's walking down the golf course, and he saw, in the distance, this black object come up from the trees. And it freaked him out. He was worried, and he got the dogs, and he ran into the closest forest and got under the trees, and he said this object kind of was hovering above him and it was flying over the trees, and he could see this black object, like a triangular object, kind of following him through the forest.
All right, so your granddad had this interesting story, Tommy.
Yeah, so this was in the 80s or 90s. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was a story that he shared quite a lot as I was growing up, and I'd love to get him on the podcast now and just let him share it to everyone, but unfortunately, he's not alive anymore, so I'm keeping this story alive. But he But I recently spoke to my grandmother about this as well, and she said he always used to talk about this. And my granddad, he was a joker sometimes, so he did share stories sometimes. But this happened. You know, he shared it many times. It never changed. And he was on a golf course walking the dogs. He's walking his 2 dogs, and I don't know if he was meant to be on the golf course, but he's walking along this golf course with his dogs. And he said in the distance there was like a forested area, and this black object came up from the forest. And he said it just started coming towards him. Now, when this happened, this is before like drones and things like that. I mean, there might have been drones around, but not like today where everyone has a drone. You know, no, drones weren't a thing back then. You know, drones are very new.
Sure.
And this object started coming towards him. And he said it was a big black, like triangular object. And he said it freaked him out. Obviously, he didn't know what this thing was. So he's got the dogs and he's gone into like a nearby forested area. And he's walking through the forest to try and get away from this thing because it's coming towards him. And he said he looked up at the treetops and he could see this black object above him following him through the forest. And he said he was scared, my granddad, you know. And he's going through the forest. He's getting the dogs to come with him. And he said he got to like the end of a forested area and there was a group of scouts walking along the road. And he said he just joined them. And he said he kind of looked back and this thing was gone. But he has no idea what it was. UFOs has always been a thing, obviously, but, you know, probably not as big as today. It's a lot easier to hear UFO stories in today's world, and it's a lot more in the mainstream, and it's a lot more accepted now. Obviously, you got the US government talking about it, so it's a lot more accepted. You know, when this happened, I mean, you told stories like this, you'd get a funny look. You know, my granddad's generation was a little bit different. They weren't as open as us when sharing these kind of stories. But that was a story that he shared many times, you know, and that happened.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And, you know, so it always leads me to a question. What do you think aliens, or if you want to say extraterrestrials, what do they want?
That is a good question. Because the thing is, I think there's a number of different things going on with UFOs. I think some of it is possibly our technology, and that was kind of the stories you hear when military personnel say, right, no, stop talking about this, we're not reporting this, it's fine. You know, that kind of, when I hear stories like that, I kind of think, okay, that's probably something that is secret within the military. You know, that kind of makes sense, that the military are going to have secrets within the military. You know, it's just how it is. So I think some of it is our technology, but then, you know, there's so much. I've seen things in the sky that I can't explain, you know, and I know so many people have. You know, it's very rare to meet someone that hasn't seen some sort of strange light, or, you know, sometimes there is logical explanations, but sometimes there's just not. Yeah. And I think there's a number of different things going on. I think there could be, you know, interdimensional craft coming in and out of our reality, and, you know, and I think it's possible that we have got crafts coming from other worlds or other realms, you know, that are coming in to check on us, you know, make sure we don't blow ourselves up, which we can do at any moment, let's face it. So I think there's a number of different things going on that we kind of put in the same box with UFOs. But it could be that there's all sorts of different things. Some of it could be spiritual and supernatural. Some of it could be like a flesh and blood being that's from another world or from our oceans. I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's where I am with it. I think there's a lot of answers to what this thing is, what this phenomena is.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, kind of I'm on the fence from interviewing people with that question, because some people have said, well, they're here to help us. They're here to show us, like, we're screwing things up. Yeah, tell us something we don't know. And we're destroying the planet. And, you know, we really need to do something about it. And then other people have said, well, they're coming here to harvest us like basically slaves and use them for their own well-being or something like that. I don't know, you know? So again, I'm like, I understand what you're saying. And, you know, people have been abducted. Most people don't have really good stories. Like, I felt, you know, this was peaceful and this was wonderful, and they told me this. Most of it's like, you know, they put me on a cold metal table and I was poked and prodded, and, you know, I was scared, and I was, you know, they did this and did that to me. And I'm like, okay, that's scary. And so again, I guess if I'm an alien or extraterrestrial, you know, do I want to see this planet destroyed? Probably not, because yeah, sure, if they could use us as their slaves to whatever, okay, well, you don't want to kill us. And then if you want to help us and make our planet better because they learned from their planet how they destroyed it, yeah, that's awesome. That's so much the better. So again, I don't know what is the proper answer, but I think it's just like people in the world, right? There's some people who want to watch the world burn, and there's other people who just want it to thrive and be successful and want us to have a great life. And I don't know what it might be. What's the difference between the two and different races and religions and whatever they have over there? We don't know, right? And I think that it comes down to all the numerous stories that are out there, who to believe too, right? I miss the good days of the X-Files. I don't know if you ever watched the X-Files, the TV show. That was a fun show to watch because they covered a whole bunch of interesting topics on there about stories that were out there. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. Yeah, and the other thing that I always wonder is why don't people come forward a little bit more with their stories now that it's not as taboo? Because I think in the 60s and 70s, it was more like, in 80s and 90s, I guess, that it was more looked at like you're kind of a weirdo if you say stuff, right? And now it's more like, oh, you saw something? I saw something. So do you think that's changed? Or do you think still it's because of all the revelations and pictures and articles that have been out in shows? Do you think that's changed towards people coming out and saying, hey, I saw something?
Absolutely. I think it's definitely had an impact. I think shows like what we do, what you do, that shows like this where people can just share experiences freely in a safe space. People listen to these shows, and then I think it does help. It helps when you hear other people talk about experiences. I never thought I was going to be doing podcasts where I talk about things that I've experienced. If you'd have asked me probably 10 years ago, I'd say, no, I'm not going to talk about that on the podcast. But now every week we are here talking about Bigfoot and talking about these subjects that, some people still give you that look. Don't get me wrong. You do still get that look sometimes. But generally, I think most people are the world that the mainstream narrative gives us now. I mean, a lot of people are like, nah, there's a lot more going on. I think most people are there right now where we don't really trust our governments. Let's face it, it's very hard to trust them. And there does seem to be a lot more to this world, whether you're into this kind of stuff or not. It must be very hard it is very hard to look past the high strangeness that is going on around us. And now you've got the US government telling us, that they've got these files, that they're slowly releasing these files, which, some of the stuff that's being released, guys like us, we've known about this for years. There's no shockers there, really. It's all stuff that we know. It's interesting now that it's officially being released, and that's never happened before. Stuff like the Rendlesham Forest case, if the UK government did come out now and say, yeah, actually, we've been lying for the last, whatever it is, 40 years, whatever it is,
Yeah.
That's where it's a bit of a problem, because we know governments lie, that's for sure. Yeah. But it's now that they're going to tell us that they've definitely been lying for the last 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. And now with the new movie Disclosure Day out, that my wife just saw with her friends last night. She didn't give me any spoilers, by the way, other than she said, if you've seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg's movie, I believe in the early 80s, kind of the same thing, but a little bit different in the sense of what the disclosure is, And I don't think, if there is a disclosure day, how much will affect us? Really? Am I going to change my life that much? Yes, in a sense, sure. But no, I still got to go to work. I still got to earn a buck. I still got to take care of myself and my kids and my house. And it's not like, hey, there's aliens. Now what? Right?
I'm not working no more.
Yeah, if they say to me, you don't have to work anymore, we got you. All right, cool. I love these aliens. I'm retiring. This is great. Yeah, that's not happening.
That's what's so interesting. That's what's so interesting about this disclosure that we've had the last few weeks, is that not many people are actually reacting to it at all. I mean, I know guys in our space are obviously interested because it's what we talk about every week, but you ask some guys at work what they think of this disclosure that the US government has been saying, and some of them don't even know it's happened. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, literally, the government have told us that they've been monitoring aliens and they've got videos and all this sort of stuff. And they're like, really? And then they just carry on. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's weird, in my opinion, that you're not finding that strange, you know?
Exactly.
So it is.
Just, yeah.
People are just, I don't know if people are just numb to the high strangeness now. And, you know,
I think it is. Yeah.
We are very busy. We do our 9 to 5s, and then we've got Netflix for the evening, and it keeps everyone busy, I guess, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Unless it turns into like a war of the worlds where they're destroying everything and blowing everything up, people are going to be like, okay, that's good. Have a great day. And that's why I always laugh at the government. Oh, we got to keep it secret. We got to keep it secret. Like, no, you don't. Like, it's not really going to affect people unless, again, they tell you, okay, people, we're done with working. We're going to have this great life. Here you go. No, people are going to be like, nah, it's okay. As long as they're not trying to eat my brains or anything like that. I'm good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm going to barbecue and have a pint. That's not a big deal. Right. Yeah. So again, this was awesome. Thank you for joining me, Tommy. You're always the best.
Thank you.
I love you to death, and I love your podcast and all the content and everything. What do you got out coming? I know you always got some great stuff, but if you could tell my spooky friends what you got coming out, so they can go check it out.
Absolutely, man. As I talk to you right now, I've recorded with someone last week, and the episode is going out very soon as we talk right now. It's actually going out tonight, the episode. But I talked to Jeff Finnan from Badger Lane Legends, who's based in Wisconsin, where you are. I don't know if you know him.
Yes, I do.
He said, and you came up in the conversation, that you might actually be related, which I found interesting. I was like, "Wow, that's a small world." So I got one of your family members on the show, and yeah, just same. We've got two or three episodes every week. Let's Get Freaky podcasts. Like your show, we talk to awesome people and they share their experiences and their work with the paranormal and topics of high strangeness like Bigfoot and all that juicy stuff, man. So yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Again, what I love about both of our podcasts is they're a little bit different and everything. So you can listen to Tommy's podcast and hear something. Then you listen to my podcast and hear something that will make you laugh or make you interested. And both podcasts are that way. So again, Tommy, as you know, you're always welcome back anytime, my brother. So I love talking to you. And, again, this with the Rendlesham incident, please dive into this, people. There's so much more with it. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a highlight because we could go on for 2 or 3 hours with this thing. We could have like a 4 or 5 parter. So, and maybe I'll do that someday. Sit down and rock something out like that. And maybe Tommy would be nice enough to come with me and we could do that and have a big go into and read the journals and listen to the recordings and all this other stuff that's in there. But it's really interesting. Go check it out. If you haven't heard about it, it's probably one of the best cases next to Roswell, next to other cases that will make you think, what was this? Whether you believe it or not, it's not the point. It's just, that was interesting. I wonder what this was. And listen to all the evidence that goes back and forth with one another. So, and then you make your own decision. But I believe they saw something. I believe it was extraterrestrial. What it was and what did they want? I don't know. I'm just glad that someone had the guts to come forward and say, this is what I saw. And, hey, I'm going to live with it for the rest of my life, but that's okay because I'm going to stick to what I saw and going to stand up for myself. And that's what we need out there is more people like that. It's okay to come forward and say, whether you see a ghost or spirit, Bigfoot, whoever you saw and whatever you saw, it's all right. Come out forward with it. And then, bring some evidence with it because we need some evidence. It's not to say you can't just say things because that's the internet. But if you have evidence and good, strong evidence, who's to say that you're not wrong? So awesome. So thank you, Tommy. It's always blessed to have you on. And, Dairyland Frights always says, thank you for letting me get freaky with you.
Anytime, brother. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Tommy. It stays spooky, buddy. Bye-bye.